Hello, YouTubers, and welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. We have 17 articles in this episode for you, and I'll hop right on into them. All these URLs are in the description of the video for your convenience in case you want to look up anything in them. This first one is off of New York Times, and it says, Trump, in optimistic address, asked Congress to end trivial fights. In case you missed it, there was a speech last night that Trump gave in front of Congress, and I watched it. I thought it was a pretty good speech. It says President Trump, in his first address to joint session of Congress, defended his tumultuous presidency on Tuesday and said he was eager to reach across party lines and put aside trivial fights to help ordinary Americans. He called on Congress to work with him on overhauling health care, changing the tax code, and rebuilding the nation's infrastructure and military. He raised but he raised new questions about his policy priorities and how he plans to achieve them, especially on immigration. Only hours before his address, Trump had broken from his tough immigration stance and remarks at the White House, suggesting that be granted to millions of undocumented immigrants who have not committed serious crimes. Many of Mr. Trump's core supporters had denounced that approach as amnesty during the campaign, but Trump never mentioned legalizing undocumented people and overall held to the tough on immigration theme of his campaign. Right for an immigration bill as long as there is compromise on both sides, the president said at the White House, according to people in attendance who asked for anonymity because they were not authorized to speak about the meeting. The idea is a sharp break from the crackdown on immigrants in the United States illegally that Mr. Trump ordered in his first weeks in office, and the hard line positions embraced by his core supporters that helped sweep him into the White House. But Mr. Trump made only a glancing reference to an immigration overhaul in his speech, calling for new merit-based system that would admit only those able to support themselves financially. Took a hard line on immigration, much as he had during the campaign. As we speak, we are removing gang members, drug dealers, and criminals that threaten our communities and prey on our citizens, Mr. Trump said. Out as I speak tonight, and as I have promised. But in contrast with the dark themes of his inaugural address, Mr. Trump's speech to Congress was a more optimistic vision of America and what he called the promises ahead. The themes were largely orthodoxy, delivered soberly and almost verbatim from a prepared text. Mr. Trump read from teleprompters and appeared restrained and serious. Republicans interrupted dozens of times with standing ovations, although Democrats mostly sat stone-faced. Mr. Trump presented himself as eager to put aside some of the virtue of his presidency. The time for small thinking is over. The time for trivial fight is behind us, he said. From now on, America will be empowered by our aspirations, not burdened by our fears. The most emotional moment of the speech came when Mr. Trump recognized Karen Owens, the widow of William Ryan Owens, a member of the Navy SEAL team who was killed during a commando raid that President authorized in Yemen. Ms. Owens sobbed as Mr. Trump said Ryan's legacy is etched into eternity. Mr. Trump said that Defense Secretary Jim Mattis has guaranteed him that it was a highly successful raid that generated large amounts of vital intelligence. Mr. Trump for the raid, including by Mr. Owens' father, with some arguing the operation was botched. Earlier in the day, Mr. Trump had blamed Mr. Owens' death on the generals who oversaw the mission, although Mr. Trump's presidency has been defined by executive orders and pronouncements. His speech appeared to be an attempt to open a new phase and reflected his need for cooperation from Congress. My administration wants to work with members on both sides, members in both parties, to make child care accessible and affordable, to help ensure new parents have paid family leave, to invest in women's health, and to promote air and clean water and rebuild our military infrastructure, Mr. Trump said. Yet to propose major legislation to achieve his goals, with members of his cabinet and senior staff members divided over key elements of tax and health plans, and congressional Republicans split on how to structure them. By this point in his presidency, Mr. Obama had established an active, if not always friendly, working relationship with Democratic Congress, having signed into law a $187 billion package of spending and tax cuts intended to stabilize the economy. Mr. Trump laid out the broad outline of a health care overhaul that among Republicans about how to structure it, calling for a plan that uses tax credits and tax-advantaged savings accounts to help Americans buy insurance, and promising a stable transition from the existing system. Mention of any array of challenges abroad, including Syria, North Korea, and Russia, nor did Mr. Trump criticize one of his favorite foils, the fake news media. He did pledge his full support for NATO, the need for the alliance, and argued that his demands that nations contribute more money to NATO. I can tell you that the money is pouring in, Mr. Trump said without providing examples or specifics. Very nice. Similarly, Mr. Trump offered no specifics on earlier in the day that might seek a comprehensive immigration overhaul, such a move would be a significant turnaround for Mr. Trump, whose campaign rallies rang with shouts of "build the wall" on the Mexican border. In January, he signed an executive order directing the deportation of any unauthorized immigrant who has committed a crime or falsified a document. The standard, any of the estimated 11 million people in the country illegally. In his comments to the television anchors at the White House, Mr. Trump went so far as to raise the idea of granting citizenship to young undocumented immigrants who had been brought into the United States as children. President said such a change would go well beyond the temporary work permits offered them through a 2012 executive order. During his campaign, Mr. Trump criticized Mr. Obama's directives as an illegal amnesty and promised to immediately end the program if elected. But he has delayed acting on the matter since taking office and expressed sympathy for its beneficiaries, sometimes known as Dreamers. The White House did not remarks to the anchors, but Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the deputy press secretary, said she had not witnessed the conversation and was therefore unable to confirm it. The president has been very clear in his process that the immigration system is broken and needs massive reform, and he's made clear that he's open to having conversations about that moving forward, Ms. Sanders said. Right now, his primary focus, as he has made over and over again, is border control and security at the border and deporting criminals from our country and keeping our country safe, and those priorities have not changed. Remarks about immigration came as he prepares to issue a new version of his executive order banning travel to the United States from 7 predominantly Muslim countries and suspending the acceptance of refugees. The ban has been revised because of legal challenges. Mr. Trump defended that order in his address to Congress. Compassionate but reckless to allow uncontrolled entry from places where proper vetting cannot occur, Mr. Trump said. Those given the high honor of admission to the United States should support this country and love its people and its values. We cannot allow a beachhead of terrorism to form inside America. We cannot allow our nation to become a sanctuary for extremists, he said. The war Mr. Trump is fighting with himself and his inner circle, even the possibility of legal status for millions of undocumented immigrants. Melania Trump, the First Lady, was hosting the family victim of violent crime immigrants, a way of highlighting the president's belief that immigrants who lack legal status pose a grave threat to Americans and should be feared and removed, not embraced. Mr. Trump singled out the victims' families by saying, Your loved ones will never be forgotten. Official Democratic response, former Governor Stephen L. Bashir of Kentucky offered an implicit contrast to the president by noting his own humble background in military service, accusing Mr. Trump and his cabinet of billionaires and Wall Street insiders of favoring banks and wealthy over ordinary people. Allies in Congress seem determined to rip affordable health care away from millions of people who most need it, Mr. Bashir said. This isn't a game. It's life and death for people. For Mr. Trump's speech, the president turned to help develop his inaugural address, Stephen Miller, his senior policy advisor, and Stephen Bannon, his chief strategist. The two were still working on the speech late Monday night, aides said. Mr. Miller and Mr. Bannon, both architects of the president's tough immigration policies, were responsible for shaping the dark themes of the president's speech on Inauguration Day. There is what I have on what actually happened. And now this next one is Conservative Tribune. It says Mexico will be furious when they see who Trump invited, or when they try that again, invited victims of illegals to speech, whereas Democrats have reportedly invited sit with them. President Donald Trump's speech Tuesday night to a joint session of Congress, the president and his wife Melania have another route. And then the couple has invited the families of 3 American citizens murdered by illegal immigrants to sit beside Melania as her husband speaks. 2 of the guests, Jessica Davis and Susan Oliver, are widows of a detective and sheriff's deputy who were killed by an illegal immigrant during a shooting and carjacking rampage 3 years ago. The suspect, who was sneaked back in each time, was awaiting trial in California. After the murder of Davis and Oliver's spouses in 2014, Congress introduced an immigration enforcement bill, the Davis-Oliver Act, that would have empowered the resources needed to combat illegal immigration, as reported at the time by the Federation for American Immigration Reform. Never gained traction in Congress, perhaps due to the certainty that then President Barack Obama would undoubtedly veto it. Of this bill, while on the campaign trail last year, Trump said it would enhance cooperation with state and local authorities to ensure that criminal immigrants and terrorists are swiftly identified and moved, that they're going to go fast. 3 guests, senior, lost his 17-year-old son 9 years ago to an illegal immigrant murderer. Shaw was a staunch supporter of Trump during the presidential election and even spoke during the Republican National Convention last summer. The sharp contrast between Democrats' guests and Trump's guests is quite remarkable. Democrats want to honor illegal immigrants, all of whom are criminal by default, whereas are honoring the deceased victims of illegal immigrant criminals. One party speaks on behalf of lawless thugs, while the other party represents millions upon millions of law-abiding, rightful American citizens who just want to live their lives without having to worry about being victimized by crime. Which side is America really on? Do we really need to ask? The article that I have for you is off of truthfeed.com, and Dems plan to troll Trump's congressional speech and to bring Islamic migrants and illegals to Trump's congressional speech. House Democrats are seizing an opportunity to troll President Donald Trump's first major speech to Congress by bringing a bunch of Islamic migrants and illegals to the event. Many of the same Democrats who boycotted Trump's inauguration are choosing not to skip his first address to Congress as president, instead opting to bring guests directly affected by the administration's controversial policies on immigration and refugees and Republican attempts to repeal Obamacare. The gallery is going to look like America, said Representative Jim, Democrat of Rhode Island, who is leading the effort to have his colleagues bring diverse guests Tuesday, and will be joined by Rhode Island Dr. Anshun Mirza, a Muslim American born in Pakistan. It's another reminder to the president that he's not the arbitrator of patriotism. Designed to put a human face on Trump's immigration and refugee policies and perhaps steal a bit of the spotlight from the president's big speech. To resonate much beyond Tuesday night, members said doing something is better than nothing. Langdon started urging fellow Democrats to invite guests affected by Trump's policies when the administration unexpectedly rolled out a travel ban for 7 Muslim countries. Trump has since said executive order that can withstand legal challenges soon. The next article, this is off Liberty Writers, and it says, "Oh, burn. Trump's reaction to Tom Perez being elected DNC is hilarious." Democrats voted today on a new chairperson for the Democratic Party. The vote came down to Keith Ellison, a Muslim anti-Semitic with ties to Farrakhan, and Tom Perez, an establishment bigot who believes that black people should have more rights than white people. The DNC chose to elect Tom Perez, and our president shared his feelings on the decision. And Trump put out a tweet as, "Congratulations to Thomas Perez, who has just been named chairman of the DNC. I couldn't be happier for him." Republican Party. President Trump is right. Conservatives couldn't have asked for a better pick. Perez is a radical racist who was personally picked by Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. He's most widely known for dropping the voter intimidation charges against the Black Panther Party. Perez also told investigators that white people were not entitled to protection under the Voting Rights Act. Here's just a little background on Tom Perez. Perez lied about his family history in order to further a political narrative of public service. His grandfather, who he says spoke out about the Dominican dictator Rafael Trujillo, actually represented and defended the tyrant in Washington for 5 years before eventually heading into exile. Perez would take the DNC even further to the left-wing fringes. Perez is a radical on immigration, having prosecuted Border Patrol agents and served on the board of a radical group to help Central American illegal immigrants. Perez is a radical on racial issues, having used desperate impact theory to assess civil rights and discrimination cases. Perez also dropped the DOJ case dropped the DOJ case against the Black Panther Party for voter intimidation because he doesn't believe that civil rights laws can be. Perez used his private email 1,200 times to conduct official business, taking lessons from his party's failed presidential nominee. Picking Tom Perez just divides the Democrats more than ever. Democrats just made the same mistake they made in 2016. They picked establishment over what their people want. I thank the Democrats for making it so much easier for Republicans to win the coming elections. The next article that I have for you is off of the Common Sense Show. Let me reload this because here. Spinning in the wheel. Come on, buddy. Department employee has brakes cut for the second time. What is it that she knows? Time in 3 weeks, State Department employee Monica has had the brakes on her car targeted to avoid disaster. I was originally contacted by Monica's friend, Mary Tyndall, who provided me with the details. Further, Monica and Mary have informed me that Monica's communications are being tampered with, as they have both informed me and maladies are transpiring when they speak. And an example is the playing of Monica's voicemail while she is talking on the phone, are increasing frequency and severity. Presently, Monica was targeted at her work for termination for violating the Hatch Act for displaying President Trump's picture on her desk at work after the election. She received an opinion from the State Department's legal office that she was not in violation because, yet her supervisor, an ardent Clinton supporter, still told her that he was going to be reported for the Hatch Act violations, and this would be included on her job review. Monica's colleagues, all Clinton supporters, previously displayed Obama picture in their respective workplaces. Presently, Monica is being represented by a federal employee union. Readers are probably wondering why Monica would be harassed. The answer is simple, and I can only conclude that the Pizzagate policy patrolling the corridors of the State Department believe that Monica has some inside knowledge about child sex trafficking in the Pizzagate geographic area. I can state without hesitation that Monica has very limited knowledge, and certainly not as much as the negative attention that she is receiving would suggest. When Monica contacted me to inform me of the extreme workplace harassment she was enduring over displaying Trump's photo on her desk, she made an "oh, by the way" revelation about the strange goings on in her corner of the State Department with regard to the willful act of not recognizing child trafficking within the boundaries of the United States. Monica began to notice anomalies at work that were not following protocol, and she shared these observations with me. For example, the graphic displays brochures publications could no longer depict any minorities as perpetrators of violence, with rare exception. Even for pamphlets, whites were primarily cast in that role. Monica had work turned Monica had work turned back to her for violating these new norms. Most notably, the increasing irregularities began to occur in other areas that Monica noticed through the course of her work, but did not jump on due to the extreme harassment and bullying she was experiencing because of her support of Donald Trump. This irregularity had to do with child sex trafficking. Publications created from her office would display stories of foreign examples of extreme child sex trafficking in places like Africa, but never depicted the behavior inside the United States. However, her office is a stone's throw away from the alleged Pizzagate location. Across the Potomac, where Monica lives, is Fairfax County, Virginia. This county has the highest incidence of of sex trafficking in the country. It struck her as odd that all State Department brochures on the topic of child sex trafficking would be devoid of any domestic reference. After Monica mentioned this to me, Monica has unspeakable harassment. I am now convinced that Monica's sidebar comments regarding the nature of State Department publications regarding the sex trafficking subject to do with this, and her comment made to me, which was only a by the way comment, has now taken front and center. My takeaway is that Monica has accidentally and unknowingly stepped into the middle of a major cover-up. It's not hers, and I want to make that clear. Former Congressman Frank Wolf is from Virginia, and on his former congressional website, he gave child sex trafficking front and center attention. It should be mentioned that Wolf's chief investigator, Tito Segovia, for sex trafficking, died under very mysterious circumstances, where it gets very interesting. Monica's son, Dylan, played with Segovia's daughter at their mutual apartment building playground. The combination of these factors made Monica's public enemy number one in her small corner of the State Department, as in the minds of some at the State Department, as she was becoming a source of concern. Following Monica's revelation made to me about the obfuscation of domestic child sex trafficking at the State Department in their brochures, she was harassed by a very mysterious person. The situation was so dire that Monica was advised by the local police not to return home. This warning was triggered by the events on February the 2nd as Monica was leaving her apartment complex for work. She observed a strange man waiting for her when she came out. She ran to her car and flew out of the parking lot in a panic. The man attempted to follow her and did so all the way to where she parks her car near the State Department. When she came home, that same man was waiting for her next to her parking spot. She immediately fled, and the man pursued her. In the twists and turns around the complex, the man made a wrong turn and Monica ended up behind him. She was able to take 3 photographs. The man ran a red light when Monica was taking the photos in order to get away from her. Monica went to the police and they investigated. The police were able to determine that the man's vehicle was rented, but their investigation did not reveal more. The police have advised her that she should not go home because it was not safe. The police are now in contact in the State Department security. Monica has left with the police department, or try this again. Monica is left with a police department that wants to trace this vehicle to the user who was stalking her. However, they are blocked from obtaining the identity through a federal security block. Does this deep state go? Judging from this case, it goes very deep. And judging by this case, elements of the Pizzagate cover-up in this area of the country are extensive. Pray for Monica's safety. Will be revealed. I have for is off of Liberty Writers, and it says Trump just gave fake news the ultimate screw you. They lost what they've been waiting for all year. Between the liberal media and our president is rocky, to say the least. After sites like CNN, Washington Post, and the New York Times have been repeatedly caught lying about him, President Trump has become more than a little fed up. So President Trump is firing back and giving the liberal media the ultimate screw you. President Trump just announced that he will not be going to the White House Correspondents Association dinner. Earlier today, President Trump tweeted, "I will not be attending the White House Correspondents Association dinner this year. Please wish everyone well and have a great evening." Journalists and liberal entertainers have been drooling over the chance to insult the president to his face. They have made it clear that the event was not going to be the love fest Obama enjoyed. Last time Trump attended the dinner was in 2011, when both President Obama and comedian Seth Meyers grilled him with childish insults. It's been said that he decided at that moment to run for president as a way to get back at the establishment types laughing at him. Well, he won, and he's getting back at them big time. Trump isn't just going to roll over like a usual politician would and laugh this off. He's fighting against a dangerous force that manipulates the minds of Americans with lies and distortion. The fake news media is the enemy of the American people, and President Trump is not the type to consort with the enemy. I commend our president for this move. He shouldn't reward hateful, dishonest media with his presence. They don't deserve it. That I have here is also off of Liberty Writers, and it says, shameless. Watch Nancy Pelosi just go crazy on TV. Trump will get her for this. Pelosi says that Trump supporters will change their minds. Liberals seriously think that. It's because they read fake news. On Monday, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, Democrat of California, said that Democrats are listening to cases for Trump's impeachment. This is what Dems are trying to do now. They are insinuating that Trump supporters were stupid because they voted for Trump. They are now going to try and change minds once they start to push for impeachment, and they will push for impeachment. Nancy Pelosi says perhaps misrepresenting the American people could be cause for impeachment. So there is plenty of grounds right now with the current president, but it just isn't the case. That doesn't mean nobody is listening to cases that are being made in very scientific, methodical way as to whether there are grounds for impeachment. And look what she said about Trump voters. But the fact is, we're trying to unite the country. Many of the president's supporters are just not ready to accept the fact that their judgment might not have been so great in voting for him. And by the time the case is made, perhaps they'll be ready to accept that. It's very hard. Impeachment is very, very hard. Boom, bim, bam, pow, gook. Trump bad, Trump impeach. Those are the kind of words that go through Nancy Pelosi's head. If this is the voice of the Democratic Party, then Democrats don't have much going on. Let me send Nancy Pelosi a message. It says here, tell us below this article on Facebook what state you voted in, and share this article with 3 friends of yours. I want Nancy Pelosi to see that there are literally thousands of patriots out there that want Trump to succeed and don't want to see her sniveling face no mo. So there you have that, but I'm not done. The next one, here's another one on Liberty Writers, and it says, just rolled. Trump just said 4 words that'll have Nancy Pelosi crawling on the floor. In the Fox and Friends interview with Donald Trump, President Trump made one thing clear. He made it clear that he didn't like Nancy Pelosi. That's because she's the dumbest of the dumb. When President Trump was asked about Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, he responded, I think she's incompetent. Then he continued. He says, well, I've been watching Nancy's statement. I think she's incompetent, actually. If you look at what's going on with the Democrats and the party, it's getting smaller and smaller. In a certain way, I don't like to see it because I like a 2-party system, and we're soon going to have a 1-party system. I actually think a 2-party system is healthy and good, but she's done a terrible job. I think she's wrong. There are those who say I've done more than anyone in 100 days. If you want to pull it up and take a look at that. It says that was ugly. Nasty Nancy Pelosi doesn't deserve to be the minority leader. This woman is just so incompetent. Her political career should be over. Oh my goodness. And there's some more video of Nancy if you want to take a look at that. So there's that one. The next one's BizPack Review, and it says Trump's got nothing on Hillary when it comes to Russian ties, according to new Clinton tell-all. Clinton hurled accusations at President Donald Trump for being cozy with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. It seems she had her own intriguing relationship with the Russians. A new book chronicling Clinton's unsuccessful 2016 presidential bid revealed the many scandals that led to her resounding defeat, according to New York Times best-selling author Doug Wead. In his book, Game of Thorns, the inside story of Hillary Clinton's failed campaign and Donald Trump's winning strategy, the presidential historian exposed the scale of the Clintons' corruption, including how they sold sleepovers in the Lincoln bedroom for up to $400,000 while they occupied the White House. Clinton's strange relationship with Russia when she served as Secretary of State, as well as the pay-to-play practices with China that prompted the Chinese American businessman and Clinton fundraiser to secretly record a confession video out of fear for his life. Clinton had a verifiable, unscrupulous relationship with Russia, the Daily Mail reported. Clinton encouraged American tech companies to help fund Skolkovo, the Russian version of Silicon Valley, Weed explained in his book. In return, Skolkovo raised millions of dollars for the Clinton Foundation, but it didn't end there. Approved a deal that allowed Russian government to control almost 20% of the Americans' uranium production, Weed continued. The company involved, Uranium One, donated $2.6 million to the Clinton Foundation. One willing to take on Clinton Foundation, Weed alleged large companies gave major donations in an effort to lobby and get what they wanted out of Clinton. State Department was basically for sale, Weed wrote. The ethical questions surrounding the Clinton preceded them into office, Weed stated, adding that they continued unabated during their time in the White House and ultimately led to Clinton's defeat in November. Meanwhile, Trump was recently caught on hot mic stating he hadn't called Russia in 10 years. Representative Trey Gowdy also criticized the idea of a special prosecutor investigating alleged ties between Trump and Russia. And that leads me to my next article. Is Gowdy, Too early for special prosecutor on alleged Russian ties, offers brutal reminder on inept Hillary camp. Representative Trey Gowdy believes it's too early for lawmakers to be calling for special prosecutor to investigate President Donald Trump's alleged ties to Russia. There's no special prosecutor statute. There's no independent counsel statute, the South Carolina Republican told Fox News Channel's Bill Hemmer on America's Newsroom on Tuesday. And there's video of this if you want to pull it up and look at it. It says there's a regulation that allows for the appointment of special counsel if the Department of Justice has a conflict and if all 92 U.S. attorneys have a conflict. Until that evidentiary burden has been satisfied, I don't know why Republicans or Democrats are talking about special counsel, Gowdy said, explaining what Congress can and cannot do. It's too early. Special counsel only applies to a criminal investigation, the House Intelligence Committee member said. Interference is a special analysis from influence, Gowdy added, noting that Congress plays a constitutional role, but it is the FBI that investigates crimes. Russia didn't target the DNC. It's not Republicans' fault that Hillary Clinton's campaign chief, John Podesta, picked a password that the guy from the movie Sling Blade could have figured out, he said. Russia targeted America. Gowdy slammed the myopic view of Democrats calling for the investigation of Russian interference only in terms of its hacking of the Democratic National Committee. I'm fine for investigating Russia, Gowdy continued, but to have a show hearing where you're discussing classified information is not in our country's best interest. The next article is also off of BizPac Review, and it says, report, Sessions Justice Department will withdraw from Texas voter ID law case. The U.S. Department of Justice will step back from a legal challenge to the Texas voter ID law, according to a public interest group involved in the litigation. Danielle Lang, the Deputy Director of Voting Rights at the Campaign Legal Center, tells Memo that DOJ will ask U.S. District Judge Nelva Gonzalez Ramos to dismiss their claim that Texas acted with discriminatory intent during a hearing Tuesday. The Justice Department previously argued the law was crafted to impede minority access to the ballot box and has been involved in the case for over 6 years. The department is now withdrawing from the case altogether. DOJ also argues the law has a discriminatory effect on minority voters and is not withdrawing this claim. If the courts conclude Texas adopted the law with discriminatory intent, it will be scrapped altogether under the Federal Voting Rights Act. If the court's finding is limited to discriminatory effect, on the other hand, sections of the law may be upheld. We have already had a 9-day trial and presented thousands of pages of documents demonstrating that the picking and choosing of what IDs count was entirely discriminatory and would fall more harshly on minority voters, Lang said. So for the DOJ to come in and drop those claims just because of a change of administration is outrageous. We will move forward, she added. None of the record evidence has changed. We fully expect to prevail. If the NAACP Legal Defense Fund is also involved in the challenge to the law. The Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals found the law had a discriminatory effect on minority voters, but the question of discriminatory intent back to the lower court. Texas asked the U.S. Supreme Court to review the ruling, but the justices passed on involving themselves in the case earlier in 2017. John Roberts strongly suggests that the High Court would eventually hear the case in a statement issued concurrently with the denial of review. U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is a supporter of the voter ID laws. He also reacted positively to the Supreme Court's ruling in Shelby County versus Holder, which struck down several sections of the Voting Rights Act, including one provision to which the Texas law would have been subject. The Justice Department has not yet commented publicly on its future involvement in the litigation. Of Liberty writers, and it says, as Trump met with black leaders this morning, every reporter noticed one thing in the room. As if you didn't see it already, this is just another example of why Trump hates the media. President Trump met with 60 presidents of historically black colleges and universities in the Oval Office on Monday. It was a great meeting and should prove to liberals that Trump is not a racist. AFP posted one photo from the meeting with the caption, Kellyanne Conway checks her phone after taking a photo of President Donald Trump and leaders of black universities in the Oval Office. And it shows Kelly sitting on a couch in the Oval Office checking her phone. And she's got her legs tucked underneath her. She's on her knees there on the couch. Just to give you a description, you can pull the article up and take a look at this. It says, then liberals things at her. One says, get your effing feet off the furniture, Kellyanne. This isn't your home. Another one says, please tell me this is just a leaked screen grab from Get Out 2 and not the way Kellyanne Conway greets leaders of the HBCs at the Oval Office. The one thing that liberals didn't talk about is the fact that Trump showed that he cares more about the plight of our black brothers and sisters in this country than liberals do. Watch Trump meet with presidents of historically black colleges. Compared to Obama, Trump is practically a saint. Remember how Obama only invited over entertainers to the White House. And there's pictures here of Obama with a bunch of black entertainers. And I mean, they're wearing sweatshirts and, you know, baseball caps and all that in the Oval Office. But the picture with Trump with these black leaders from the colleges, all in suits, well dressed, well coiffed, you know, they all look very nice. It says, yeah, that's Obama and liberals. They hate free-thinking black people. Yep, I just said it. They hate educated black men and women. Most of America doesn't know that. So there you have that article. The next one, writers, and it says, hallelujah, Mike Pence just marched on stage and made a promise to Israel that will make Americans cheer. Mike Pence is a good and honorable man. As good and honorable man, he knows how important it is that America does its part to help defend Judaism both home and around the world. That's why last night he made a promise in front of the Republican Jewish coalition that will make you swell with real American pride. Is if the world knows nothing else, the world will know this: America stands with Israel. God bless you, Mike Pence. As a Jewish American myself, it is great to finally have president and vice president again who actually support Israel and the Jewish people instead of throwing us under the bus like Barack and his nasty friends at the UN did. Mike Pence in this if you want to watch that. Now, Mike Pence admitted that there will need to be some give and take in the peace negotiation process. That's fine. That's how negotiations work. It's what he said after that which really gives me real confidence in this administration. And that quote is, while there will undoubtedly know this, the Trump administration will never compromise the safety and security of the Jewish state of Israel. Hallelujah. This is really a miraculous speech that gives so much confidence to people who have been trashed too many times before. And in the words of Vice President Pence, is in the promise-keeping business. The next article is off of BizPac Review, and it says, Trump reportedly orders Marine One landing pad to be built at Mar-a-Lago. This is sure to get a few tongues wagging. President Donald Trump has dubbed his Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida, a winter White House, and according to one report, could be planning to spend a lot of time there as president, so much so that he's reportedly building a large helipad on the grounds of his private club so that Marine One can fly in directly, according to the New York Post celebrity news and gossip entity, page 6. President has spent 3 weeks or 3 weekends. Try that again. He's spent 3 weekends at Mar-a-Lago since taking office in January and has been landing at nearby Palm Beach International Airport before transferring to the presidential limousine, affectionately known as the Beast, for the drive to the club. Page 6 reports the 40 to 50 foot wide dirt pit on the west lawn is currently surrounded by bright orange construction posts, but club insiders say that members are willing to put up with eyesore because they hope it will reduce the traffic that is caused when the president's motorcade rolls through. Even if you live a block away, it can take an hour and a half to get into the club when Trump's in town with all the security and extra traffic. It's unclear who will foot the bill for such an endeavor. If true, the helipad would prove to be beneficial to officials who would avoid major traffic tie-ups as the presidential motorcade rolls through. Well, I'm not sure who pays for that either, but I will say this. I'm taking the millions of dollars worth of vacations that the Obamas took. So a helipad seems to be a small investment in the United States. And after all, see, which one was it? Was it Reagan or Bush? One of them had 2 helipads built for the helicopter. So, you know, I don't see what the argument is here. The man's not taking any money for what he's doing. Have a helipad, for God's sakes. Crying out loud. The next one here is off BizPac Review. It says Donald Trump invites wife of slain officer to speech. Meanwhile, Dems invite illegal immigrants. I think I already covered that a while ago. Another article on it, which doesn't really say anything any different. Well, maybe it does a little bit. I'll read through it. A move that highlighted Donald Trump's support of law enforcement. The president has invited Elizabeth Snyder, wife of slain St. Louis County police officer Blake Snyder, to attend his address to a joint session of Congress Tuesday night. Officer Blake Snyder, 33, was shot by 18-year-old Trenton Forster while responding to a disturbance call last October. He was hit in the chin and pronounced dead almost as soon as he got to the hospital, according to St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Forster was charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. On Monday, Fox 2 in St. Louis reported that Elizabeth Snyder is honored to attend and is looking forward to President words about law enforcement. She also posted similar words on Facebook last week. In a speech, which will be called the address to joint session instead of transitional or traditional State of the Union speech, will outline current administration goals. A few months after her husband's death, his wife shared some of his letters written on their wedding day on social media. From the from the Post, officers are human. They make mistakes, but so does everyone else. They have lives, families, and love. Please be aware of that next time you see one somewhere, she writes. She also posted a picture of their son holding his father's American flag. Meanwhile, Democrat lawmakers planning on inviting several illegal immigrants to watch the address. Say more. The next article is off of Western Journalism. As Ivanka's popularity soars in China, businesses rush to trademark her name. Companies are boycotting products with ties to Ivanka Trump. Chinese firms are rushing to trademark her name for their business. In South China Morning Post reports dozens of companies have collectively submitted at least 65 applications to the country's trademark office to claim the Ivanka trademark. Additionally, some 40 companies in the country have already used the Chinese alphabet characters for Ivanka in their names registrations. Companies that produce items such as makeup, alcohol, wallpaper, nutritional supplements, and feminine hygiene are among those applying for registration. For instance, the um, Fujian Yingji Commodity Company filed an application to use Ivanka for its brand of sanitary napkins a week after Donald Trump won the presidential election. The rush for Chinese businesses to claim at a time when the Trump brand has become heavily politicized and faces boycotts from some critics of the president. Most of the applications to use Ivanka's name are still under review, and it's unclear whether they'll be granted. Popularity in Chicago, or I'm sorry, in her Ivanka Trump's popularity in China surged after she and her daughter Arabella drew notice for their surprise visit to Beijing's embassy in Washington to celebrate Lunar New Year, and video of Arabella singing in Mandarin and playing with a Chinese puppet went viral on the internet in China. Chinese law offers enough leeway for businesses to use foreign names and their Chinese translations as trademarks. However, this practice often leads to legal clashes down the road. Even internationally recognized brands like Apple are not immune to the system. The tech giant lost a trademark fight over the name iPhone after China granted a small company permission to continue selling leather goods under that name. Himself was involved in years-long battle over trademark disputes. He fought Chinese courts unsuccessfully until they grew more favorable to his appeals. The Trump Organization trademark protection in the Chinese construction industry shortly after he was elected president in November. The final article that I have for you is off of Liberty Writers. Oh, hell no. Clinton just released a despicable new video that Donald Trump is really bad. Hillary Clinton just will just not go away, will she? I mean, she loses to Obama in 2008, and boom, she's back in 2016. Then Trump whoops her butt in 2016, and now she's doing this crap. Today, the Democrats released another brand new video with none other than Hillary Clinton herself with a message for Democrats that will make you nauseous. And the quote is, "Keep fighting and keep the faith. I'll be there right with you every step of the way," unquote. Hell no, you won't. You lost because America does not want you with it anymore. Period. Go crawl in some hole somewhere, maybe Guantanamo Bay, and disappear. And there's video in this if you want to watch it. It says in the video, she spouts all of her usual bullcrap, claiming that Democrats are the racially and morally superior party just because she says so, before taking an even darker tone. She starts talking about the resistance and building up an army of new politicians to help fight for the America she wants. Sounds like kind of like Hitler youthish, doesn't it? Clearly, this witch is trying again to take over a country where nobody wants to see her rule. We need to stand together now more than ever as a single unit and show her that American people say no way to Hillary Clinton. I have for you. If you like what I'm doing here, share it on your social media so everybody can see it. Give me a thumbs up. Don't be afraid to let me know about it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. That way you'll stay informed.